Are you bored of answering how are you with the same answer every time? It's fine to say fine thanks, but this video is for you if you want to take your English to the next level. Today, you are going to learn how to answer how are you in advanced English. And as always, I've created a free PDF to go with this lesson. You can review everything you learn in this video, and I've also added a section on answering how are you in emails, as it's slightly different, as well as regional British slang. There is also a quiz in the PDF and a link to some secret exercises. If you'd like to download that, just click on the link in the description box or scan that QR code there. Enter your name and your email address. The PDF will arrive directly in your inbox. The link is in the description box, or you can scan that QR code there. Now, before we get into answering how are you, let's talk about some different ways to ask this question. There are a lot, and there's nothing wrong with how are you. It's appropriate in pretty much any situation. But if you're trying to reach a C1 level in English, you need to add some more variety. So let's see more ways to ask this question. You could ask, how's it going? How are you doing? Or how have you been? Did you notice the contractions? How are often becomes hower with the schwa at the end. How are you? And how have becomes have. You'll also hear this pronounced as one syllable. How have you been? Other common questions you'll often hear are how's life or how's life treating you? You'll also hear how are things or how's things. Now, how's things isn't grammatically correct because things is plural, but we say it a lot. These phrases just mean how are you or what's been happening in your life. You might also ask, been up to much? This is more a question about what you've been doing. Notice the ellipsis in that sentence. We know who the subject is, so we can omit have you. You'll also hear you been up to much with just have omitted. You'll hear been pronounced with the long E sound and been with the short I sound. Been up to much? Been up to much? Another informal way to ask how are you is all right? All right? This is very British. We're going to talk about responding in more detail in a moment, but the response to all right can simply be all right. It can be a greeting similar to hi. All right? All right. What's up can also be used as an informal greeting with people you know well, and you'll often hear it pronounced what's up. It can be shortened to sup. Asking what's up can also be interpreted as what's wrong when not used as a greeting. For example, what's up? You don't look your usual self. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, in terms of formality, we have how do you do? Now, this is very formal and quite old-fashioned. It's actually a greeting, and we use it when we meet someone for the first time. You can respond with the same words. I'm Lucy Simpkins. How do you do? How do you do? I'm Mark Wright. Note that you're not very likely to hear this in everyday conversation anymore. Okay, now we've covered a lot of ways to ask, how are you? Let's talk about how to respond to how are you. First, we need to talk about something that can confuse English learners. Sometimes when we ask someone how they are or how things are going, we don't really want an answer. We call this emphatic communication. This is language used for social communication rather than to give information or ask questions that require an answer. It can be really difficult to recognize emphatic communication when you're learning English. You need to rely on context to know how to respond. For example, if you're at a conference and you meet a business associate you've only met once before, they might ask, how's it going? But they most likely won't expect a detailed answer. An appropriate response would be, fine, thanks. You? You're not really exchanging any information. But if you bump into a close friend and they ask the same question, they probably really want to know. You might respond with, "Not bad, thanks. Actually, I just got a bit of good news. Blah, 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 blah." Usually, we answer fairly positively when someone asks how we are, unless we're sure they want to hear about our troubles. Okay, we'll start with 3 of the most common ways to respond. We have, "I'm fine, thanks." "I'm well, thanks," and this one is a little more formal, and we often use it to refer to our health rather than giving a general answer. And "I'm good, thanks." People sometimes say "I'm good" isn't correct, but it's very widely used. I use it. It's just considered a bit less formal than "I'm fine." You'll also often hear these sentences without "I'm." "Fine, thanks." "Good, thanks." This is another example of ellipsis. It's obvious who we're referring to. You will also hear people answer questions like "How's it going?" or "How have you been?" with "Yeah, good, thanks." Now, these aren't yes or no questions, but "yeah" is a really common filler word, and it's a way to quickly acknowledge the question. Finally, you will also hear "I'm doing well," or "I'm doing great," and "I'm doing good." Now, "doing good" is not grammatically correct here, but we use it all the time. Technically, if you are doing good, you are doing something positive, like giving to charity or volunteering. I volunteer at the shelter because I enjoy doing good. Now, you might be aware that British people tend to be quite understated. So slightly more nuanced responses include pretty good, not bad, or not too bad. Yet another very common response is can't complain. This is the same as I'm all right. In the UK, particularly in the north, you might also hear mustn't grumble. Grumble means complain. An example, how are things?
Yeah, mustn't grumble.
You'll also hear people say hanging in there and getting by. These phrases mean that you're surviving and so you're fine, and they are obviously used humorously.
How's it going?
I'm hanging in there. You can also use them more seriously if you're going through a challenging time and you want to answer honestly, but your tone of voice will be different.
Hanging in there.
Another classic understated response is same old or same old, meaning that nothing or not much has changed in your life since the last time you spoke with that person. This is a great response to how's life or been up to much. Now, after you've responded, you'll probably ask the other person how they are, and we very often simply ask you or yourself. For example, same old, you, or not bad, thanks, yourself? Now, using yourself like this isn't entirely grammatically correct, but again, it's very common. You might also ask, how are things on your end? Or how are things at your end? This is more informal. Now, for our final section, we're going to talk about how to give a more honest answer when you're not doing too well. A common response is, been better, or been better, to be honest. These sentences also contain an example of ellipsis. I've is omitted. We can also simply say, oh, you know, and then continue with more details. For example,
how's it going?
Oh, you know, Alan's not well again. You might also say, it hasn't been the easiest week or month. It hasn't been the easiest is a bit softer than saying, it's been the hardest or worst week or month. You can also say, it's been some day, and this means I've had a rough day. And finally, when you're not feeling well, you might say, bit under the weather, or an informal, very British one, not too clever. Okay, let's actually end on a positive note. One of the most positive ways to answer how are you is never been better, or just never better. So I now have a question for you. How are you? Choose one of the phrases in this video and respond in the comments, giving context if you wish. Remember to download the PDF and exercise pack that goes with this video. click on the link in the description box or scan that QR code there. I really hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah.